Welcome everyone to tonight's special meeting of the Township of Ocean Board of Adjustment. Nicole, will you take the roll call, please?
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Here.
Mr. Lomo?
Here.
Ms. Beal? Mr. Kimura?
Here.
Ms. Lippman? Mr. Puccielli?
Here.
Mr. Lineski?
Here.
Mr. Caramanica?
Here.
Vice Chairman DeGennaro? And Chairman Fuller.
Here, please rise for the salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The notice requirements of the open public meeting law for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the notice having been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Coaster and filed in the office of the Township Clerk. Emergency notice. There are emergency doors through the courtroom doors in the back and two exits also, or I guess it's the front, all two exits at the rear of the room. No smoking, please. If you have to smoke, please leave the building. Board policy. No new cases will be started after 9 p.m. We don't need to talk about that because we only have one case tonight. Notice all meetings will be video and audio taped and shown on the Township of Ocean's Community Cable Channel, Channel 22, and Verizon Fios, Channel 77 on Cablevision. All cell phones must be turned off. If you need to make a phone call, please make your call outside of the room. We have one case tonight. Oh, do we have a resolution? No.
We do. We have 3 resolutions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we have 3 resolutions. I think we can all vote on them, right? Well, they're all the same. All right. The first one is Towel 7 Oakwood. Second was Congregation Megan David 395 Deal Road. And finally Dorfman 415 West Lincoln. Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second. Sorry.
Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. Lomo?
Yes.
Mr. Lineski?
Yes.
Mr. Caramanica?
Yes.
And Chairman Fuller.
Yes. Okay. Now on to the one case we have tonight. WF Ocean Redevelopment LLC, 1600 New Jersey State Highway 35, Block 34, Lot 4, in the C2 zone. Attorney for the applicant, Ms. Krimko.
Good evening,
Hello.
Mr. Chair, members of the board. Jennifer Krimko, on behalf of the applicant, first and foremost, on behalf of my client and myself, thank you for coming tonight. I know it's difficult on a holiday week. I know how much you're sacrificing to be here. As a result, I'll try and speak a little quicker than normal in the hopes to get us out of here, but obviously I want to cover everything. So before I give an opening, I'm going to let Mark move in the items that he pre-marked, and then I have a few extras and we can go from there.
All right. Exhibit A1 will be the variance application. Exhibit A2 is the NJDOT letter of no interest dated February 11, 2025. Exhibit A3 is the traffic impact study. Exhibit A4 is the drainage study. Exhibit A5 is the boundary and topographic survey. Exhibit A6 are the floor plan and elevations for Wells Fargo. Exhibit A7 is the architectural plan for Dunkin' Donuts. And Exhibit A8 is the preliminary and final site plan prepared by Nelson Engineering, and that's revised through October 23rd, 2025. I then have the following board exhibits. Exhibit B1 is the board planner's report. Exhibit B2 is the board engineer's report. Exhibit B3 is the code enforcement report. Exhibit B4 is the DPW report. Exhibit B5 is the Traffic Safety Bureau report. Exhibit B6 is the Crime Prevention Bureau report. Exhibit B7 is the Fire Marshal report. And Exhibit B8 is the Environmental Commission report. Those are all the exhibits I have.
I don't think I got that. The Environmental Commission. Okay, and I don't have so many. So, A9 is an aerial photograph of the subject site. I'm gonna start with Ben and just ask them to pass down. And then A10 is a color rendering of what I presume to be the landscape plan. Yeah, sheet 5 of 14 of what was moved in as A8. Excuse me.
Those are just a colorized site plan for A8.
It's sheet 5 of the site plan. And by way of brief summary, and while Dave is preparing, we're all familiar with the subject site. It's on the west side of West Park Avenue. It's on the west side of Deal Road. It currently contains a very large Wells Fargo bank. It's on the corner. The applicant is looking to demolish that oversized bank, get rid of the full-service drive-through lanes altogether, and construct a much smaller bank in generally the same location with a drive-through for the ATM only. And on the remainder of the space, we are proposing a Dunkin' Donuts with a single drive-through lane, but the approach comes at, thank you.
Sorry.
Outstanding.
I didn't realize that I didn't
Thought I was
have
going
the
blind.
I'm sorry.
The approach, as you're going to see, is a double approach in order to provide for queuing. Generally, when this all started, it was an understanding with Jim and myself. I'm just giving you the background so you understand what went on before we showed up here today. Jim originally had indicated it was all conditionally permitted use and no variances were required as for the use. We submitted it, it started at the planning board. After his further review, and then we had a meeting, he had made a decision and a determination that we did need a conditional use variance because, and the language of the ordinance is very strange. It says that drive-through fast food restaurants are conditionally permitted standalone or part of a shopping center. Well, we're not a shopping center. There is no definition of standalone. Originally, he had assumed that standalone meant a standalone building. He then changed the interpretation after further investigation to mean standalone lot. So he was taking the position that in order for it to be conditionally permitted, it would have to be on its own lot with no other building. So we are here seeking a D variance, conditional use variance as it relates to that. Additionally, and I understand this interpretation was memorialized vis-a-vis the recent billboard application, that more than one principal structure has been determined not to be permitted. So even though they are both commercial structures and the same structure, it's Jim's interpretation that essentially we need a D1 variance as well to allow for two principal structures, since they are not the identical use and it's not a shopping center. So that's why we're before the zoning board and not the planning board, because the uses themselves are permitted. There's just some nuance with regard to that. Additionally, and by way of background, the township engineer approached me with regard to the town's desire to widen Deal Road and whether or not we would be willing to dedicate 8 feet in order to provide for the roadway width that's shown in the township's master plan. We said, of course, we don't own the property yet. We close, once, should we get approvals, and then we would gladly do that. One of the things, and we did have a technical, and I'm sorry for boring you with all this in advance, but I think it's important to set the stage. I had the opportunity recently to meet with all of the board's professionals, including Mark, as well as the township engineer, the township manager, and the township attorney, to kind of figure out the best way to do this to get the town the road widening as soon as possible. And one of the things we agreed upon, and I wanted to put it on the record here because ultimately it's going to be up to you guys, is if the board approves this, we would agree to immediately, as a condition of approval, dedicate the right-of-way to the town so they would immediately own it. The town would proceed as the applicant in front of the DOT for the road widening, because a municipal improvement or road widening is going to get a much quicker treatment and review than it would be if it was part of a development. Plus, it separates the road widening from our development and doesn't hold us up as you go through the DOT. But one of the things that we did agree to do, we committed to the township manager and the township engineer months and months ago, was that if the DOT approves their road widening, we would widen along our frontage. We would do that work. Since it's not going to be part of this application, should this board approve it, we've already stipulated to the township's professionals and to the township manager that we would agree to address it as part of any developer's agreement. So if this board approves it and the town is successful in getting the road widening approval from the DOT, then we would enter into an agreement with the town that would require us to widen along our frontage, and at least that way it ties it into our development, it saves the expense for them. So that's the very long-winded background, just so you understand all of the different elements that come into play. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dave Besh Have him sworn as our certified landscape architect as well as vice president of Nelson Engineering, and start walking you through existing and proposed.
Alright, sir, the swearing testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And just state your name for the record.
David Besch, BoESCH.
And you are a licensed landscape architect in the state of New Jersey, correct?
Yes, in good standing, yes.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
All right, Dave, so let's walk the board through what's there today and what we're proposing.
Okay, referring to A9, which is the aerial photograph of the subject property. As Jennifer had mentioned before, the property is located on the northwest corner of the intersection of Route 35 and Deal Road. It's currently occupied by a overly large Wells Fargo bank and its associated parking and circulation aisles for a 4-lane drive-through facility. It has a two-way access on Route 35 and a two-way access onto Deal Road. One of the intents of the design as we started out was to try and repurpose as much of the existing facility as we could. So we are looking to retain the curb lines or limits of disturbance along the east, north, and west sides of the property.
It's not a two-way access on Deal Road.
In and out is permitted.
No,
No,
it's
no.
there's no right turn. You're correct, Mr. Ashkenazi. So it should be no right turn. Over the years, from when the bank was there, all that striping disappeared. So when we get there, you're going to hear that we are going to limit it to right in, right out only, and we're going to do that via striping now. And if and when the widening occurs, subject to the design of the township engineer, we'll put in an actual island to channelize it and prevent it. But again, it doesn't make sense to do that now if it's just gonna be ripped out and widened, so we would offer that we would wait, and we have our
Well-
traffic engineer who's gonna go into it in great detail, but we know how unsafe it is and how dangerous it is to make a left out of there.
Right.
People are doing it today, but we're hoping that what we're proposing will limit that.
Thank you. In the C2 zone, the minimum required lot area is 2 acres. The existing property is 1.32, so that's an existing nonconformity. With the proposed dedication of 8 feet of right-of-way along Deal Road, that will be further reduced to 1.28 acres, so variances would be necessary for minimum lot area. The lot width, particularly along, the width would be the Route 35 frontage. 250 feet exists, which is conforming, but again, the 8-foot wide widening would reduce that to 242 feet, so variance would be necessary for that condition. The lot depth, 250 feet is required. It's existing at 230 feet. That's not going to change. Front setbacks, the existing facility is deficient to the required 100-foot setback to both Deal Road and Route 35. To Deal Road, the setback to the drive-through canopy is 55.9 feet. To Deal Road is 65.4 feet. So deficient in both frontages. The side setback, which side is to the north, 50 feet is required, 36.2 feet is existing.
Before you go on, Dave, let's highlight, are we gonna make that worse or make that better in our proposed?
I was getting there. I was going to go through all the existing ones first, and then I was going to do how we're going to be improving.
Okay, well, let me give you a preview. We're improving all of those nonconformities, if not eliminating them. Is that accurate, Dave?
What she said, yes. The most striking improvements are in the reduction in gross floor area. We're coming down from over 8,000 square feet on the existing facility to a combined floor area of just over 5,600 square feet. So the net result is a reduction in floor area of 2,641 square feet, or a 32% reduction in the floor area of the buildings. The impervious surface coverage is also being reduced by 2,801 square feet. So where the minimum landscape requirement of 25% is not met in the existing condition of 18.23%. The proposed condition, we don't meet that 25%, but we do get to 23.81%. So again, we're improving the required landscape coverage.
Even though we're losing land, we're still able to
Correct.
reduce the coverage, and increase the landscaping.
Correct. One of the other remaining variances, excuse me, was the required front yard landscaping. 30% of the required front yard is required to be open space. Now, the front yard in this condition is 100 feet along 2 streets, so that occupies almost 75% of the property. So where in the existing condition, the front yard landscaping is 24.96%, in the proposed condition, we are going to be 21.78%, so we are exacerbating the variance. But the main reason behind that is because the area that we're dedicating along Deal Road
Is all landscape.
is 80.3% open space. So we're giving up our prime front yard landscaping. Then going to A10, was it?
A10, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we're looking to, again, retain the driveway opening to Route 35 and to Deal Road, 2 structures, both improving on the setback conditions, with the Duncan actually conforming at a 100-foot setback and the required side yard and rear yard setback. We have a 2-way circulation aisle running across the east and south sides of the property, with counterclockwise circulation around the balance of the site. There is a dual drive-through lane for the Dunkin' restaurant and a single ATM drive-through lane for the Wells Fargo, with a bypass lane going along the northern and western side. Where the existing bank had a parking requirement of 55 parking spaces, but there are only 50 spaces on the property.
So they're deficient in parking now.
Existing, correct. The proposed condition only requires 35 parking spaces, and even though we're reducing the amount of parking from 50 to 48, we are conforming to the parking requirement.
Okay, and that's gonna be important, I think, because obviously when we wanna look at, based on the lot area and the, D3, whether or not the site can accommodate the use anyway, we're reducing coverage, we're reducing building coverage, and most importantly, we're getting rid of a parking deficiency. So essentially, everything we need fits on the lot without exacerbating any variances, but for the fact that we are dedicating that right of way.
Correct.
Okay.
And then we are proposing to upgrade with the normal amenities, additional landscaping, refurbished lighting, restriping and coating the parking areas. We're looking to repurpose the existing signs. One sign just to the south of the Route 35 entrance, and one sign just to the east of the Deal
And when you
Road.
say repurpose, you mean we're gonna keep the pole and we're just gonna change the sign message on it?
That's correct.
So, while it's non-conforming, we're not changing them in size, so we don't need variances for that other than because they're existing. But our setback is actually being diminished if we dedicate the land
Correct.
in that area.
Correct.
So, we are reducing the setback, so for that one, we do need a new variance.
Yes.
Okay, and what's the setback existing and proposed? I mean, it's gonna be an 8-foot difference, but.
Okay, the existing sign setback to Deal Road is 13 feet, and it will be proposed to be 5 feet.
Okay. But again, the road widening, as you understand it, is not going to bring the road to the property line, correct?
Yeah, my understanding is that the curb adjustment is going to be very limited and
About 2 or 3
2
feet.
to 3 feet.
Right, so visually, it's not gonna really look any different than it does today.
Correct.
Okay, and you had mentioned trees. I know that in Jim's report, he had noted that he wanted us to provide the street trees. And one of the things we talked about, obviously, when you have retail uses or commercial uses, you don't wanna block it with trees so passerbys can't see it. So one of the things that he suggested and that we agreed to, provided the board is okay with it, is we would meet the number of street trees, and the type of street tree would be, you know, up to Jim. And we would just work with him as to the location, meaning we might clump them in certain areas so as to not block visibility. So we would need a variance for not having them 40 feet on center in that repetitive way that I think is really more set up for residential type streetscapes. We would give you the number and just ask for relief as it relates to the spacing. Was there anything else that he had mentioned with regard to landscaping? I don't think so. I don't think we. Yeah, right, we talked about all that. Oh, a couple additional things that I just wanna go over from, his letter. The parking space size, again, we're asking for the, 9 by 18 as opposed to 10, and.
With hairpin striping,
Right,
yes.
and that's something that's typically seen in most municipalities unless it's a shopping cart type use.
Correct.
Okay, and, well, we understand that we're under, that we're over the parking required for a use like this where there is no on-street parking. We think it was a better zoning alternative, and I think Allison can confirm for Jim that he agreed that it's better to have more parking than less. And, you know, certainly the idea of making the parking spaces wider when it's not necessary doesn't make a lot of sense.
Understood, yes.
Okay, in the one-way traffic aisle, where we have 13 feet is required, or we have 12, where is that?
Those are for the bypass lane, as well as the dual and single drive-through lanes.
Okay, and the traffic engineer will talk about the safety of that and how the 12 is typical, and then the other variance that wasn't mentioned, and again, it's not really something we're changing, is the location and number of curb cuts. We're essentially utilizing the existing curb cuts, we're not changing that.
Correct.
Okay, as to loading spaces, we're not proposing any loading space, so the bank in its current condition, they're not changing their operations, they don't currently have a loading space, and they don't need a loading space. And how is the loading going to work for the Dunkin' Donuts?
Well, the Dunkin' hours are from 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. And they've indicated that they have their deliveries done on non-business hours, so between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. And they would load from the drive-through lane.
Okay, so when the business is closed, they would unload from the drive-through lane and access the building that way, so there's no need for a formal
Correct.
loading, which would create more impervious coverage. We talked about the street trees, I think I hit all that. I just wanna make sure I'm getting everything in Ben and Jim's letter. Was there anything with regard to the stormwater management and grading in Ben's letter that we have an issue with?
I just want to identify, shall we say, I don't know how this number came about with the water elevation being 73.5 feet, which is basically about 1.5 feet deep at our southeast corner. Well, that condition probably would not occur because the catch basin located at the southwest corner is about 8 inches lower than the catch basin in the southeast corner. So if the system should ever reach its capacity, the water would bubble up out of this catch basin and out through the driveway to Deal Road, which is the current direction that the water flows from the site today.
Okay, so we can address everything in his letter. Traffic and circulation, I'm gonna leave to the traffic engineer. As it relates to any of the technical comments from Ben under the traffic section with regard to striping, and site triangles and the like, is there any issue with complying with that?
No.
Okay, the landscape and the lighting, let's talk about that. We need some relief as it relates to setback of the poles as well as the overall averages.
Right, because number one, this is a financial institution. We feel that additional illumination is necessary, especially since you have ATMs that are available for public use 24/7.
How many ATMs are there?
There are two. There's a remote drive-through ATM, and then there's an ATM located on the front of the east facade of the building.
That's a walk-up?
Yes,
Okay. And then just to clarify, I know, Jen, you said it, the drive-through is only for the ATM, there's no window service, correct?
correct.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify that.
Uh-oh. We're in a
gonna
dual
slowly start.
stereo
Yes.
coughing over here, sorry about that.
So one of the other conditions that the town's ordinance requires is, shall we say, setback of poles and illumination levels at the property lines. Well, they didn't exempt the driveways. So in order to provide what we consider to be adequate illumination at the driveways, we'd be seeking relief from the setback of the poles and the illumination levels as they occur at the two driveways.
And again, we're not in any proximity to any residential, so there'd be no impact.
Correct. The facilities to the north, I forget the actual name, I call it the Pet Palace. It's a animal care facility.
Greenleaf.
Okay, and we have a automobile gasoline service station to the west.
I think I hit everything in the letters, was there
The
anything else?
directional signs and the building mounted signs?
Yes, I'm sorry, so the building mountain, the architects will speak to, but what I can represent is, we do need relief for the number of signs on the building, but the calculation is we're well under the 10% that would be permitted. So we could have much bigger sign if we made it one, and much bigger, as you'll hear, but we're just seeking to do smaller signs, and you'll understand why when we speak to them. And then, Jim had a question with regard to, there are a lot of on-site signage for directional purposes. And while Jim didn't call out whether or not, that they weren't really the types of signs that the ordinance regulated, he did ask us to prepare a plan to make it clear as to what on-site signage we have. So I'd like to move in as A11, the sign exhibit. And that is revised through 10/23/25. And in order to make it readable, Dave printed up large ones. If you don't mind, we don't have enough for everybody. Everybody. If you don't mind sharing. Oh, I have 3 over here. No, I gave them a cup, they know. So Dave, let's just walk through the on-site signage to make it clear, because on the plans, they're all there, but they're not labeled and identified as clearly as they are on this plan.
Okay. First and foremost, we have the two freestanding identification signs. One located south of the driveway to Route 35. The second located to the east of the driveway
Them all away.
to Deal Road.
Okay. I mean, and let's not go through one by one. Let's group them as to the types of signs that they are and where they're located.
Okay. Then the larger majority of signs are related to identification of the drive-through lanes for the separate buildings. There's a cluster of drive-through identification signs, just with low, roughly around 3 square foot signs, indicating that here's the drive-through. You've got the clearance bars that are also can be considered a sign. The pre-menu board and menu board and the exit sign for the Dunkin' facility. Then there's similar but fewer number for the Wells Fargo entrance. The entrance identification, the clearance bar, the kiosk itself has some signage on it for the remote ATM, and of course then the exit signs. And then the, shall we say, traditional traffic directional signs, the do not enter signs at the southwest corner so that people do not go the wrong way down the one-way aisles, the stop signs at any potential intersection of vehicles, and directional one-way, indicating which aisle is directed in what direction.
Okay, so these are all either identification or directional to help aid in the safe pedestrian and vehicular circulation of the site?
Correct.
Okay. So they're not intended as advertising signs or the type of signs that would be seen from the general public. It would only be on site they would be relevant.
Correct. For guidance, for the ease of circulation throughout the site.
Okay?
Yep.
Recognizing that we have the architects and the traffic engineer and the planner, are there any questions for Dave's testimony so far?
I don't know if this for the traffic engineer, but you talked about they're going to bring the deliveries in at night through the drive-through. How do they do that? You have a clearance sign that's blocking that, so how does a truck come in through there?
They can actually, possibly not through the drive-through, but the bypass lane, and sit back in the area of the
Okay. The proprietor for the Dunkin' Donuts, that's how it's currently done, so the type of truck that makes the deliveries can fit within the drive-through.
I had a question on the proposed parking. So how many spots are required?
35.
35. And what was the number?
48 are proposed.
So I'm just looking at the 12 spots.
35 for the whole site is required?
Yeah.
Okay, 35 for the whole site, and how many are you proposing?
48.
48.
So I'm just looking at the 12 spots along Deal Road. You're losing the grass frontage, and I know it was in the planner's report that if we eliminated spots or reduced those number of spots, we would have more green space.
Well, the
It could be.
right, the short answer is maybe, but realistically, we're just, in full disclosure, let it all out, we're the contract purchaser of this property. Wells Fargo will remain as a tenant, they will not sell it to us if they lose those spots.
Got it.
So we, you know, we're obligated to provide the parking that the tenants also believe is absolutely necessary. And realistically, I understand that on paper you want more green space, but realistically, when you look at it, I grew up here my whole life, driving up and down, none of those areas have green because they're constantly have cars there. Nothing's really going to survive all that well, and no one's really going to see it all that well. I think having the landscaping inward of the site in the form of trees, as opposed to along the frontage, is going to prove to be a much better aesthetic solution.
And can I just ask a question about the parking? I assume it's shared parking?
Yes.
Okay, so there's not gonna be any exclusive for Dunkin', no exclusive for the bank?
Mm-mm.
There's a sign saying parking for Wells Fargo customers only on the sign plan.
And that was a leftover from the original, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, left over where we had dedicated signage.
Yeah, that we did, and Jim made it pretty clear that he didn't wanna have that, so.
Yeah, I see that too. So that's gonna be removed from A11. There's gonna be no exclusive parking, and the signage indicating exactly the opposite will be removed.
Yeah, well, as I'm thinking about this though, since we have the excess spots, I don't wanna take it away if they wanna have it. Realistically, no one from Dunkin's gonna park on that side in front of the bank. And it might make sense to direct the bank users to those spots as opposed to the spots that would be used for Dunkin'.
I don't wanna complicate it, but how many, is it broken up when you come up with the 35?
Yeah, what is the requirement for parking for each of the uses?
Okay, the
I know
bank,
you're-
Yeah, we just need to know this, yeah.
the Wells Fargo Bank is required to have 24 spaces at 1 per 150 square feet. And the Dunkin' is required to have 11 spaces at
How many?
11.
11 spaces for Dunkin', okay.
So we have plenty, we have those 11 outside of the ones on Deal Road, correct?
Correct.
So again, I wanna give them the option that if they wanna stripe or keep those as their own, since we meet parking, and we wouldn't be creating a deficiency that perhaps we don't eliminate that.
And how many spaces are near the, I'm looking at it.
Near the Dunkin'?
Yeah, because you're gonna have to keep at least 11.
Right.
So the ones
Yeah.
that can be identified as wells only would be the ones in front of the wells.
We would be sure that the 11 in front of Dunkin' would not be signed. That I can commit to.
So we're literally talking, the ones that say 11 spaces right here are the only ones that could be wells only,
Sorry.
or down here too?
On the east side
No,
of the
what I'm
building.
suggesting is that we only need 11 spaces for
Correct.
Duncan. We're going to have 11 here. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 there. So what I'm saying is we'll be sure that the Duncan has its 11 spaces and nothing else will be signed.
So 11 spaces closest to Duncan,
Minimum.
Does the Wells Fargo need the spaces on both sides of the building?
Probably not.
Because I could see somebody parking here to
Right.
use the ATM.
I don't wanna-
across to the Dunkin'.
Maybe, and you know, part of the other problem is, I know that they're gonna want some spaces just for them,
Pretty typical.
but we have more than we need for parking, so as long as we're providing the amount for Duncan, I don't know.
So do you need to put a similar sign of parking for Dunkin' only?
No, because who's going to go to a bank and park at the Dunkin' unless they're going to Dunkin'?
I could see the situation, like Allison just said, someone needs to use the ATM at the bank, and then they walk over to the Dunkin' rather than moving their car
Yeah,
there.
when near a Dunkin'.
That's a Wells
That's
Fargo
bank
customer.
parking.
Yeah.
That's bank parking, they're using the bank.
So we have to delineate it in some fashion, where these parking spaces are, so that there's no question in the resolution.
Well, I think the signs are shown on the plan.
Which ones were the ones that Wells talked about?
So where
Okay.
the two Ls
The
are.
11 in the front along Deal Road,
Immediately adjacent to the south
say
and
parking
east
for Wells
facades.
Fargo
Parking
only,
spaces like
and then the
L.
five right here, where the L's are,
Right.
where L and L is, are where the signs are that say Wells only.
Right, so we would ask for the ability to make Wells only for the parking spaces up against the Wells building. And the other ones
Okay.
would not be signed.
Except for the handicap spot.
Okay. But,
Which you don't have a sign there for it anyway, on this plan.
right, but it wouldn't make sense for a handicapped individual to use the handicap spot at the bank and then walk over to
Well,
Dunkin'.
if one is taken up, you don't wanna limit their access to the other one.
Fine. No problem. Excuse me.
Okay, so I'm gonna have in the resolution, if the board approves the application, that the spaces marked L are the only ones that can be Wells only. We're in agreement?
Mm-hmm. You have something marked L on there before I say I'm in agreement?
Yeah, they say L.
Okay.
Says L.
Then yes.
Okay. I don't know what the L means, but it's there.
Just key to the
It refers to this sign.
Okay. Oh, it does, all right.
Sorry about that confusion.
Got it. Go ahead. It was important to clarify, so.
Are there any other questions from the board?
Any more questions? Any questions from the public?
Great. I'd like to introduce you to Justin Taylor, who is in his Sunday's finest for us. I don't know that I've ever seen you in real shoes.
All right, Mr. Taylor, do you swear any testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And just state your name for the record.
Justin Taylor, Taylor.
And you are a licensed engineer of the state of New Jersey, correct?
I am.
And your license is in good standing.
It is.
Thank you, go ahead.
And Justin, you specialize in the field of traffic engineering, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you've been accepted before multiple boards and courts as an expert in that.
That's correct.
Okay, so within that context, if you could walk the board through from an access, a circulation, as well as a parking compliance, and in your opinion, traffic safety standpoint.
Sure. So as part of this application, I worked hand in hand with Mr. Besh to lay out the site to ensure that we have safe and efficient access to and from the surrounding roadways, good on-site circulation, and sufficient parking to support the demand that we would anticipate for the facility. As Dave mentioned, we are essentially maintaining the existing driveways as they are today, with a right-in, right-out driveway along Route 35, as well as a right-in, right-out driveway along Deal Road. Now, the driveway on Route 35 is under the jurisdiction of the New Jersey Department of Transportation. We submitted to them and received a letter of no interest for the proposed addition of the Dunkin' and the reduction of the bank, essentially saying that there's no need for a new access permit and that they approve the driveway as it is today. They actually went one step further than that and said, you don't need a new access permit, but we do suggest you submit for a highway occupancy permit to improve the striping out there. They wanted us to put a right in, right out sign in the striping, which typically would sometimes require an access permit. So they agreed that the new development does not require that access permit, but they wanted us to put the signage and striping as you see today, and they were okay with putting it in the right of way. So the way we have it laid out, I think, provides for good circulation to the site. Because the uses are primarily pass-by type of uses, you're grabbing the people as they're traveling southbound along Route 35, and you're grabbing the people as they're traveling westbound on Deal Road on the way to Route 18. It allows you to facilitate those movements, and the right in, right out nature of both of those will actually work well. To support that, we also took a look at the operation, the actual capacity analyses of these driveways and the adjacent intersection at Deal Road and 35. We performed the traffic counts. We looked to the Institute of Transportation Engineers publication trip generation to generate traffic for the reduced bank and the Dunkin', and we ran the capacity analyses for the project. What we find is that the intersection of Deal Road and Route 35 is going to operate at...
You went off.
I got it. Yeah. Oh. It's blinking at me. Keep holding.
You're the engineer. Sorry.
Thank you. All right. Perfect. So what we found was that the driveways are going to operate safely and efficiently with good levels of service. And the intersection of Route 35 and Deal Road is going to have negligible increases in delay. And again, that goes back to the fact that most of the traffic being utilized by the site is already out there today. It's already traveling along Deal Road. It's already traveling along Route 35. So based on the analyses as conducted, we feel that there will be safe and efficient access given to the facility. Mr. Bash walked you through the layout of the site. I can just agree with all the conclusions that he drew. We will be able to circulate the vehicles that we do anticipate. You've heard that the delivery vehicle for the Dunkin' is going to come overnight, so we don't need to worry about other vehicles on the site at that time. I would agree with the assertion that the 12-foot aisle and the variance associated with that is something that can be granted without any detriment to the operation. No, I'm overwhelmed.
Don't think. Because we're talking about a drive-through facility and a one-way aisle, you're not parking. There's no parking maneuvers that go along with that. And by nature of a drive-through, vehicles orient to the left side of the lane. They need to get to the pickup window, right? Whether it's the ATM and they're reaching out, whether it's the Dunkin', they're getting their food. In my opinion, you could probably go to a 10-foot lane and still have safe operation of that. We haven't. We had the space to be able to do a 12, but I think the board can feel comfortable that that 12 is not going to impede the circulation on either one of these drive-through lanes. So I think the variance can be granted without any detriment.
What's the queue amount in the drive-through?
Getting to that, that's perfect. So we are providing 17 spaces for queued vehicles with the dual stacking area as shown on A10. It is a single order board, single pickup window, but 2 lanes, because we really wanted to ensure that there was going to be sufficient stacking to not back up onto Route 35. To justify that, we actually went out and picked up queuing analysis at multiple locations, including the other Dunkin' here in Ocean on the northbound side. And what we found was a maximum queue on any of the days that we studied of 15 vehicles, with an average maximum of about 12 vehicles. So you can feel comfortable that that is more than sufficient to handle the traffic that we do anticipate.
And let me just ask you a question. The one that you looked at, did that have the dual lane coming in, or was that a single lane?
All 3 that we looked at were single order points, and they all, especially the one here in Ocean, has just a single lane as it approaches.
If you add a second order point, does that reduce the queue and make things go faster?
It does. That's not what's
proposed here, but yes, that does. What I would say is it. This current design also follows what current industries show. Really coming out of COVID and when the proliferation of drive-thrus, they got much more popular again. And what we found was the backup caused in drive-thrus was usually because the distance between the pickup window and the order board was either too short or too long. Most of the time, too short. And what happened was your order wasn't ready when you get to the window, which means then you're waiting, which then pushes it back in the queue, and the queue tends to extend beyond the order board. What they found was for Dunkin', for the type of use that you're here today, that about that 100 feet is really what you want to be. So then as you pull up to the window, you're handing over your credit card, you've already paid on the mobile app, and your order's ready. And that allows it to operate much more efficiently.
Let me just interrupt you, and if I could just ask the board, and again, this is all at the presupposition if we reach the end and get an approval tonight. I know that Mark in his resolutions often write that any change requires coming back to the board. If the operator decided to keep the same queue length, keep everything, but add a second order board in order to facilitate something, I would ask that if the board were going to vote in favor, to give us that flexibility to run that by Jim and Ben, just to make sure it works from a traffic engineering standpoint. And then, in the worst case scenario as it is today, we still have more than we need. But if we add the second order board, it's just going to make it more efficient. So I just want to have the flexibility to add that, subject, of course, to review by the engineer and planner. It doesn't create any new variances, so I don't think it's something that would have to come back to the board. So I would ask that the board consider that. You don't have to
Any
decide now.
complaint?
I would think the board would want eyes or something like that if they're gonna add a second.
I would have a concern that the order point then would shift about 7 or 8 car lanes back, even if it's 2, right? It would go to where you have the double lane rather than where
No,
you
the
have
double
single.
lane could be extended.
Oh, you could bring
Yeah,
the double lane
yes.
around? Okay, then,
And again, we're happy to come back. I know that this is something that the operator may want to do, but didn't know to do it. That corporate didn't advise us 10 days in advance of the meeting in order to get you the plans. So again, we're just looking for some flexibility. I don't know that the board typically would have an engineering comment. And again, I know that Mark always likes us to come back to the board, which is why I'm bringing it up and asking if it's something
It's
you
not me
consider.
that likes it to come back to the board.
It's all your fault, Mark.
It's the fact
Yeah.
that the board normally, what I've experienced over the years, is there are changes on the site after approvals and board members come up to me afterward and say, that's not what we saw at a hearing. It's
Fair.
different.
Yeah.
So therefore, I like to point out to the board that it's up to the board ultimately. You can give Jim that power if you wish, if it doesn't create any new
I would
variances.
suggest giving Ben the power, not Jim, as the engineer.
I think I would recommend to the board that, and if that were to be the case, that they do come back to the board, because that would change, where the cars would start stacking up for ordering. It would change your impervious coverage, if there was a modification made to the lanes. So I think that the board should have the opportunity to see that, rather than it just being an administrative approval. I think it's a substantial enough change.
Okay, then we will move on. Once I lost Ben,
Yeah, you're lost.
there's nowhere to go.
Because I imagine you can't go into very much detail on what the second one would look like right now to be able to say
Nope.
we're okay
I
with
had to
either
try.
one. Yep. Okay.
So let's just move
Can I,
on.
while we're there talking about the dual lanes, me personally, I'd like to see that extended a little bit further. Like
For
in the,
what purpose, Mr. Lynn?
because you're right, backing up right on the entrance to 35, so if it were to stack up, you're gonna be blocking the entrance. It's gonna allow some more cars to queue up.
So I would say that the length that we have designed here, right, again, is this, there's 17 vehicles to the back before you would even hit the driveway. So 17, the 17th cars are the back of this, the dual lanes here.
Where's car number 1 when you're saying that?
Car number 1 is here at the window picking up, wraps around. Car 5 is at the order board, and then it splits out and in that direction. And as we saw in a single drive-through lane, the most we saw was 15 vehicles. So this allows even that, and that's the busiest time. I'm comfortable that, and it was something that we went back and forth in our original design. Originally, we didn't have. We had about 12 with a single drive-through, and one of the big concerns we had was the impact to Route 35. So I think the layout that we have here will accommodate those. And again, I would note that in the studies that we did of the existing facilities, the biggest queue we saw was the northbound approach right across from the Wegmans here in Ocean Township. They have 80 feet from the pickup window to the order board, right? So they can only stack 4. And the one we counted in Point Pleasant, which is a new modern design with a 5, had queues of about maximum 10 to 12. So what you really see is as you get that efficiency in the drive-through operation, you're reducing the queue that you see overall on the site.
I'm hoping that it'll be successful and you're gonna backed up, but I just don't wanna see traffic backed up in 35.
Agreed. No,
And the operator wouldn't either. I mean, that wouldn't be good for anybody. So, and, you know, realistically, and just as an aside, and I know he's not here, but I think, Ben, you were at the meeting when we were with Jim. Jim was comfortable with it because realistically, if there's that many cars in the drive-through, no one's gonna just stop and then try and park in the middle. They're gonna quickly pull up and run in because it's gonna be a much longer wait in the drive-through than it would be to just run in and get it yourself. So I think that, if I remember correctly, that was where we ended with that.
I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but
But Allison is here, and Allison can talk.
No, but I didn't speak to her about it.
No, I understand, but Allison can voice her opinion if, which I don't think she has an issue with.
No, I don't have an issue with the stacking.
Okay.
How many cars stack in that area? I'm sorry. How many cars are stacked? That they
17 from the pickup window
No.
all the way back.
sorry, in the duel. I meant to say.
Oh, in the dual?
Yeah.
It was,
4 each, 3 each.
I think it's 4 each.
it's about 60 feet from where you enter to where the lanes start to
So
merge.
that's 3.
That's three cars.
Yeah, about 3, 4 depending on the size of the car and how tight they are. But yeah, you'd say about 3 each. About 6 out of the 17 are in that dual area.
And how's that work? They just one goes like a zipper effect,
Yep.
so
Like
just
a
relying on the
garage.
goodwill of somebody else.
Yep.
One thing I do want to point out also is the you know, when you're stacking vehicles in the lane, that's not an all-day stack. You know, that is a stack that's usually, you know, lasts about an hour in the morning, you know, during rush hour, the afternoon. I go to that Dunkin' that you're talking about all the time, twice every morning, and you know, it's a very quick process, and I do what you say. When there's, you know, 4 or 5 cars, I go inside. But the sacking, it's not an all day process. It's goes very quickly, and during rush hour is really the time that you're going to have stacked vehicles.
That's correct. Yep.
So
And
I
that's
point that out.
Yep.
When you did your survey, what time of year did you do that survey?
We just did the counts in. Just this past October.
But I mean, generally, I mean,
season.
you testify all over the state for many
so it's
decades.
spicy.
It's
Yeah.
consistent with what you've found in these types of drive-throughs.
Oh,
Over the
absolutely.
years. You just happen to do the counts locally, but you've testified for hundreds of these, and that's generally what you found.
Oh, agreed. Yes, we continuously update this data and submit it to the Institute of Transportation Engineers. But this is typical what we would see. That's correct.
Thank you.
Did you happen to look at the one in, I think it's Tinton Falls, near the UPS?
I did not. The 3 that we counted was this one in Ocean Township.
I just picture a million cars on that line. That's all.
Route 36 in West Long Branch, and Route 35 in Point Pleasant. And what we were trying to do was come up with some of those facilities that laid out exactly or as close to what is proposed as here. And even though the one here in Ocean Township doesn't have the same geometry, has the shorter stacking, I knew I couldn't get away with not looking at that one
Yeah.
and coming to talk to you guys about it.
Any other questions for Justin?
Are we on quiet? I feel like we interrupted Justin. Are you?
No, I
Did
think
you
it was
present
pretty
everything you
much
needed to?
wrapped up.
The only other thing I had was just in support of the parking variance. I think the 9x18s are more than sufficient for this. I don't think there's any detriment to granting that variance.
You have any questions? I have a couple. Justin, you mentioned the DOT mentioning just striping concerns. That is, they're talking about striping on the applicant's property only. Is that right?
So what they said is they would allow us to actually stripe, if we wanted to push the stop bar a little bit further forward, into the DOT right of way.
Say that again.
So
stop line. Okay.
We had pulled the stop bar back onto the property so as to not have work in the right of way and not necessitate a new access permit. A lot of times this type of striping would require an access permit. We didn't want to go in for a year and a half and have that done. But they recommended that we could do that under a much lesser order permit.
Does the applicant have the ability to ask for changes on striping on Route 35? So here's, laugh at me. That's really
No, I'm not
good move
laughing at you.
on
I'm
your
just
part.
saying that's an insurmountable thing to try.
So
and
here's
get
here's the issue I have, or the I don't want to say problem, but the concern I have, right? Because we all drive on Route 35, and all these intersections are kind of disasters when it comes to turning in, turning out, right? You picture going northbound, and you want to go into the shopping center that has the Rook and all the other stuff over there. There's a shoulder, and if me as a good American, a good citizen, I'm staying in the travel lane waiting till I get to the shopping center to make that turn in, rather than use the shoulder as a travel lane, I go to make that turn and somebody else is coming in because they want to get to the traffic light and make that right turn, so they're driving through the shoulder. That happens now coming south. You see people trying to come out of the what do you call it, the puppy pals?
Yeah.
The green leaf.
Green leaf?
Right?
Yeah.
And suddenly here comes somebody through this, it's striped, clearly illegal, but trying to get to that traffic light. And so right now there's a bank here, not many people going in and out at all times. There's going to be a lot more traffic coming in and out. And right now it's right into the exit is into the shoulder, right?
Yes.
So is there a way to petition the state to try and maybe make that an actual travel lane, so everybody knows the rules of going in and out and using it? Because that's a concern.
So the short answer to that is no.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we can't push it back is because that would then put the driveway in the full width of that lane, which the DOT does not permit. Right. The reason it is where it is it's where the lane opens up to the through lane. So if we were to stripe that further, it then actually eliminates the ability to have that driveway there because of its location in the lane.
Because it's in a lane.
Yep.
So the spots where the places where there is a travel lane and there's turns in and out, that is what?
So
just the old way of doing it, and
it's an old way. It also depends on where. So if it's because it's termed an auxiliary lane here, right? It's essentially feeding the far side jug handle, as opposed to an actual through lane auxiliary lane. If that lane continued further south past the jug handle, it'd be fine. But because it feeds into the jug handle, it's not permissible. Or if it was an exclusive right turn lane, it's not permissible there.
So one traffic light north at West Park, is that right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is an exit onto a travel lane, but that does go past.
But that comes straight through West Park,
well,
correct?
Well beyond. Okay.
So, Mr. Phil, I just want to be clear. He's probably right in what he's saying, and Jen's also right that it's almost insurmountable. You always can have them ask. The odds are it's not going to be granted,
right,
but you certainly can have them ask if that's something that you want to do. And it may not be worth it based on what Justin just said, but I just want the board to understand that it's always something you can ask the applicant to ask the DOT.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I would say we should ask if it's not something that's proper to ask for, right?
And I'm not suggesting that it would be granted
Bennett.
because they're probably right.
Perhaps it's something that we can talk to Greg Blash about. Again, if it's a municipal request, it's just viewed differently. So perhaps when Greg is looking at the road widening and the purpose of the road widening to reconfigure the access across Route 35, perhaps that's something he can look at as well.
Bennett, we didn't talk about this before. Do you have any initial thoughts on what I'm talking about?
I
You can
think
tell me that it's it's crazy.
Well, I think that if you extend the actual lane on 35, then it goes across the driveways that for this site and the next the neighboring site, and that could essentially block those driveways from people trying to turn in. If you keep it striped as it is, where you can see it on the aerial, it's got that cross edge.
Excuse me.
It prevents cars from stacking up to block the driveways, if that makes sense.
In theory,
In theory, yes.
but we kind of just have to deal with the fact that people will break the law, so to speak, and it's you can't plan for people in that situation, I guess, right?
Right.
Okay. The other thing, just to be clear, currently, if you're going east on Deal and you want to make a left turn into the bank, currently, is that an illegal left turn?
Yes, there's supposed to be a sign. I think every couple years they put a sign up and then it gets knocked down again, but there is a no left turn.
And we are proposing a sign there.
That's correct. As well as the stripe island to clearly delineate that it's right in, right out.
And then ultimately making it impossible to make that left.
That's correct. Once the widening comes through.
Okay. That's bad news for everybody that lives west of 35 and uses that bank. Well, the bank. People use that bank all the time, and
Right.
but they've been making illegal left turns.
You would just end up coming. You go to Poplar and come down West Park and then down 35 to get into the bank. Right. You still won't be able to make the left in.
Any more questions?
Is there a fence between this property and Greenleaf existing or proposed?
Dave, that's a Dave question.
Sorry,
I don't recall that we're proposing
It
a fence.
appears-
Whether or not one exists, I'm not sure.
It appears there are sections of fencing, at least from the survey, Dave. It does say.
Another hyper-local concern that's a little bit traffic, a little bit site plan, that people do park in the bank parking lot to get to Greenleaf. They literally use the bank parking spots in the back of the bank and walk their dogs across the property line because it takes so long to go around Poplar
Mm.
down to Greenleaf, especially if you live east of.
Right, but in now they won't
I
be
never
able
thought of
to
that.
because they won't be able to make a left into this site.
Right, but my concern is actually, if that is happening now and the bank has
Okay.
signage in the back that says, bank parking only, you'll be towed if you're going to the daycare. There's a lot more traffic proposed right there where people might be illegally, again, to John's point, I don't know if we can take action against people who
Do
are
you guys
breaking.
remember when that was a gym and not Greenleaf? I used
That
to
came
park-
here.
I used to park there for the gym.
That approval came to the board.
But I guess I'm asking, is there a way to deter that even more now that you have
So
an active drive-through lane there instead of some abandoned bank parking?
So I think it's naturally going to attenuate only because you've eliminated all the parking that was used to be used by, if you look at the aerial, the parking in the northwest corner is the least utilized by the bank, which made it acceptable for the Greenleaf customers to be able to use. Now that we've eliminated all that parking to the west on the site, as well as introduced the drive-through, which is going to be the component of the Dunkin' that's the most likely the busiest. Dave also mentioned that there is a chain link fence in the overgrowth here, so I think it's going to naturally attenuate.
Okay.
Whose property is the fence on? Is that on?
And yeah, it straddles both.
So we don't know whose fence it is.
That
I can tell you that it's been there since the 80s at least.
I got a question just from looking and just from myself. Coming in from Route 35, there's enough room. You're coming in on the right side and then you got to make a quick left going into the drive-through for Dunkin'.
yes, there's plenty of room for the vehicle to be able to come in here. We wanted to give a little bit of separation for the people that did want to exit onto 35, as well as to allow for the circulation if you're going to come to the Wells portion of the site. But there is plenty of room for them to enter either one of these drive-throughs while this vehicle is making the right. And realistically, as you come north on the access aisle, the only reason you're coming this direction is to make the right out. So, yes, there is enough room for those to circulate concurrently.
So, a question I had was about the wraparound aisle that goes from 35 all the way out to Deal Road. Was there any analysis done of worrying about this being a cut through? And I didn't see any signage on here for no through traffic.
I love that you asked that because that's what your board professionals asked and that's what Greg asked. And it currently is that configuration. And I don't know that there's a lot of people doing it in the current configuration, but you can answer, but I'm smiling because that's exactly what we were asked in our tech review meeting.
And I would say what she said. But no, it was a question. We had a semi-lengthy discussion about it. Because it's not something that people are used to doing now, and the view shed doesn't change, right? We're not changing anything along the northern property boundary, and the view from here does not encourage that, and we don't really necessarily see it as a problem. I would also say that southbound Route 35 doesn't really back up all that much. I mean, it does like every traffic light, but it's not the Deal Road approaches where people are stuck in traffic trying to get across. You catch the light and then you move on. So I don't really see it as an issue.
Any more questions?
I think I hear there's a question.
Yeah, do we have questions over there?
Fire truck circulation.
Yeah, so
Would you talk about fire truck circulation on the site?
Yeah, so I think
It's not so much on site, it's getting into the property is what
Right.
was asked.
so. No, there will be no issue with vehicles, large vehicles, and we can provide truck circulation. I believe that was one of Ben's comments in his letter that we have no problem providing it as a condition of approval.
So
But
then we'll provide the truck turning for the fire truck.
yep, the municipal fire
So
truck.
the island you're putting in is not going to keep a fire truck coming down Deal Road?
We're
from
not
getting
putting an island in
Well-
right
Just a
now.
striped island?
It's just
Right now it's striped. I
Oh,
would.
it's just striped,
It's
that's not,
just
that's not a
striped, and if an
structure.
island goes in, it's gonna be at Greg Blash's direction. So, we're not
Okay.
proposing an island right now, just striping.
Oh, even when the final, after if the road's widened, even then, there won't actually be an island there?
Only
No.
if the township
just going to
engineer
be
requires
stripes.
it, and if he does, he's gonna make sure that it can be accessed. I mean, typically those islands also would have mountable curbs for a truck or something.
That would be my suggestion, especially where the firehouse is. That they would we would make it mountable for he could make the left if he needed to.
Any other questions?
No more questions? Ben, do you have any more questions? Did they cover everything?
I think we covered everything. I had a comment in here about EV parking.
Yes, we will provide the make-ready if not. I don't think we're required to, based on the number of spaces, but I do think it makes sense to do it.
Aren't you required, because you're redoing the parking lot?
I think it is.
It's under the,
It's a new.
I thought it was under
construction.
50. Is it 25?
I think it's 25.
Okay, then yeah.
How many spaces do they need?
One.
They only need one,
Yep.
despite the fact there are two uses?
Yes.
And where are you gonna put the one, any idea?
No, it's gonna depend on where the electricity is and.
Alright, so I'll put that the EV has to be, approved by Ben, I guess.
I mean, just as an FYI, the EV parking, they could put one in now and not come to the board. The statute allows for EV
Correct.
parking to go in without any board approval. Yeah, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Jen, the fire marshal's report, number 6.
Bear with me 1 second.
I didn't get that.
I have Martinez.
That's fine, it just had a location to be approved right now, they don't have to come back.
I don't know if I have it. I didn't have the environmental commission, let me see. Okay, I can ask that question. So, based on the question was that their fire apparatus and large ambulances would have limited access around the building due to decreased lane size. The 12-foot wide lane, is that adequate for circulation around the site by these larger emergency vehicles?
Yes, it is. And we'll provide the truck circulation templates proving that.
Let me just see if there's anything else. And also, with the size of the buildings and them being one story, they don't need to circulate around the buildings the way they would with a taller building in order to fight it, correct? They could, the hoses and the
Absolutely.
light would be accessible?
Yes, I mean, you have access of easy access of three faces of the building and hose access along the interior aisles between the two of them.
Okay, thanks. May I keep this? Yeah. Thank you.
And you'll agree to everything else in that letter, Jen? I think, the fire marshal's letter, I don't see
Yeah, I'm
anything else
looking
in
real
there that's
quick.
controversial.
We don't have a fire access road. Fire lanes. May I make a suggestion that we'll either comply with or work it out with them to satisfaction?
Okay, that's fine.
Allison, is anything from your point of view? Any questions? Okay. Any
Thank you very
questions from
much.
the public?
Don't go anywhere yet.
Okay, no questions.
Okay,
from the
thank you. So I'm gonna defer to the board. We submitted architectural plans, everything is clearly delineated on them. We don't need variances for the building themselves, we only need variances for the number of signs. We stipulated that we're well under the 10%. If you'd like to hear from the architects, they are here, I'm happy to walk through them. But I often know that sometimes when I go to do that, I get.
You're often just as happy not to show them if the board doesn't need to see them.
Right, so I'll defer to the board if you'd like us to go through that presentation.
And legally, I do not believe we need it.
Does anybody need to see the architectural plans?
At the risk of devaluing my profession.
Now look at you. I'm waiting for you to answer first.
Wait, what's your profession?
He's an architect.
That's funny. I wish I knew that, then that would have been really fun.
Okay.
No, you
No,
don't.
not devaluing, it's necessary, it's just not always necessary for the board. Okay, so then I'd just like to wrap up with our professional planner to kind of put it all in perspective for you as it relates to the variance relief that we're seeking.
All right, do you swear your testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And just state your name for the record.
Sure. John Barry, B-A-R-R-E-E.
And you are a licensed planner of the state of New Jersey?
I am, yes.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
And that's all that's required from Mark, but you serve as both an applicant's planner as well as a municipal planner.
I do, yes.
Okay. So from a planning perspective, walk the board through the relief and what the planning justifications are.
Sure. So, you've heard the layout of the site, the orientation and context. Everybody's very familiar with this intersection, so I'm not going to walk back through that in too much detail. We're here for preliminary and final site plan, of course, along with use variance to have the two principal structures on a single lot and conditional use variance to permit the fast food eating establishment on a lot that doesn't have 40,000 square feet of area dedicated to that use. So we know the context. There's about a little over 8,000 square foot existing Wells Fargo bank branch on the property that has 4 drive-through lanes currently. The proposal is to tear that down. 2 smaller buildings that have roughly 5,300 square feet in lot area, I believe, building area combined, along with 1 drive-through lane for each use. So we're reducing the overall intensity of the square footage on the site, reducing the number of drive-through lanes, albeit splitting it now into 2 uses. So the property's in the C2 highway commercial zone. These are certainly the types of uses that are envisioned for that zone, both in the master plan and zoning ordinance, and in the context of the 35 corridor. I mean, these are uses both that exist elsewhere on 35, if not already on this property, and fit in well with their surroundings. And the condition of having multiple uses and multiple structures on a single property is also one that's not uncommon on the 35 corridor. The shopping center immediately to the south on Deal Road has a number of uses, has a pad site with the Wendy's. So there's, this condition is certainly something that's not breaking any new ground. The variance analysis, as I said, we have a D1 use variance that is related to having the 2 principal structures on the property, and the D3 conditional use variance. Before I get into the more technical D1 analysis, with the conditional use variance, we look to the Coventry Square case, whether the property can continue to function despite noncompliance with the condition. In this case, the condition that we're looking at is that we don't have adequate lot area dedicated to this fast food use. It's not
Or
a
said
or
another way,
standalone.
we don't have it alone on the lot.
Correct.
We have another use.
Yeah, we don't have it alone on
We
its
have the
property.
40,000, we just don't have it for just this use.
Right. So in that context, the lot area would comply were it alone. The number of parking spaces we are providing more than required. The floor area is well below what's required. Site's not overbuilt in terms of lot coverage, it's below what's permitted. And the circulation patterns, you heard the traffic testimony about how they're being improved and accommodating the queuing needs and so forth.
So John, to put it more simply, in your professional planning opinion, can the site accommodate the conditional use even though we don't meet that one condition?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And what would be the test as it relates to the D1 variant?
So we look at both whether the site is particularly suited for this situation with having two uses or two structures on the same lot, and also whether there are special reasons from the purposes of zoning that would be advanced by this project. Quickly, purpose A, in terms of promoting the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare, is advanced. I think the road widening dedication on Deal Road will do a lot of heavy lifting to that front. We're improving overall circulation patterns, not just for this property, but for the township as a whole. Purpose G, about providing sufficient space for a variety of uses, including commercial uses. As I said, this is exactly what the master plan talks about in terms of revitalizing the Route 35 corridor. This is a continuation of a lot of smaller scale redevelopment that's happened along the corridor. The purpose H, encouraging location design of transportation routes to promote the free flow of traffic. We've heard traffic testimony. We're maintaining the site access as it is today. We're improving the site, the circulation along Deal Road through the dedication and eventual widening, and the more formal elimination of that left in, left out situation on Deal Road that may be informally existing today will be to the benefit of the public as well. And then finally, purpose M, encouraging coordination of various public and private procedures to lead to a more efficient use of land. Having these two uses together, if they were on separate lots, they'd have two separate driveways. They would have kind of multiple sets of infrastructure. Combining them together on one piece of property is certainly more efficient.
So,
And
John, in your opinion, we're furthering purposes of municipal land use law,
Yeah.
and the site is particularly suited for the use.
absolutely.
Okay, and as it relates to the bulk variance, we talked the bulk variances. The dimensional variances, we can't do anything about, the lot area, the lot width.
Correct.
We're eliminating the front yard setback variance.
We're reducing the front yard setback variance.
Right, correct.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
so-
we're improving it.
Yeah, we're improving the condition that exists today.
The directional signs, we went over extensive testimony on.
Yes.
Freestanding signs are not changing. It's
Right,
just a matter of the dedication.
The dedication's impacting one, but they're not moving.
And the building mounted signs, I had indicated that, while we exceed the number, it's only because we're breaking them into smaller, less impactful signs than one very large sign on the facade, all correct?
Correct. And
Okay, and
for each of the building facades, we have less than half of what would be permitted.
Perfect. The parking load and circulation, I don't think is really a planning argument. I think that's an engineering argument as it relates to the parking space size, aisle width, curb cuts, and loading spaces. We heard that
Agreed.
from the engineer and the traffic engineer. The minimum landscaping, again, is, as you heard, and we talked about, a function of the dedication, that we're actually increasing the amount of open space by reducing the impervious coverage. And we talked about the street trees. So
Correct.
overall, again, we've already talked about some of these are a hardship that we can't change the lot. We've talked about the furthering the purpose of municipal land use law, so that covers the positive criteria. So from a negative perspective, would the granting of this variances have a substantial detriment that's so substantial that it outweighs all of the positives?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, so you believe, and by granting this approval, there wouldn't be a substantial detriment to the zoning ordinance or the master plan?
No, as I kind of discussed in the beginning of the testimony, these are the types of uses that are envisioned for this area. The objectives of the 2023 master plan are very much consistent with this type of project. And the road widening is something that's specifically called for in that master plan as
So
well.
we're furthering that.
We're furthering that, absolutely.
The board have any questions for our planner?
The road widening runs the whole length of the property?
Correct. Well, again, the dedication runs the whole length of the property. How much is widened within that and where it stops and where, that's gonna be up to the township engineer, so I can't speak to that. But we're giving the 8 feet along the whole front.
Anybody else have questions? Nope. Any questions, Colleen? No? Any questions from the public? See none.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair, subject to the ability to.
You got a question?
Question or comment? Oh.
Okay, so we'll move to statements from the public.
Swear you in, sir?
Sure.
And sir, just so you know, when you make a statement, we have the right to ask you questions, so you're aware. Not everybody knows that. So.
And the applicant's gonna have a right to ask you questions. Do you swear testimony you're about to give will be swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Just state your name for the record.
It's Jeevandeep Singh.
Could you spell that, please?
JEEVANDEEP.
I'm sorry, try
It's
JEEVANDEEP.
DEEP.
DEEP.
Last name is Singh. SINGH.
Okay, and your address?
280 Wyckoff Road, Edentown, New Jersey.
281 Wyckoff Road?
280.
280
Mhm.
Wyckoff Road in Edentown. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, it was more of none of the technical. It's just with this Dunkin' coming there. I mean, when we had we running the Krausers next door with them and having bagels. It's just we are concerned that it's being in the same vicinity, same kind of business. It's pretty much going to affect us on our business. I just want to know if we could do something on that or if it's going to be.
I mean, I can address that, so, you know, knowing that you were coming, I
Yes.
made sure to do the research, and competitive advantage or effect on other businesses is not really a planning consideration for the board to consider. It really has, again, this board can't control the commercial marketplace.
That's why I just wanted to make sure that's what it was. I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
That's
so
why.
I mean, you know, objections have to be based in the planning, not
Okay.
if it's a permitted use and it's gonna hurt your business. I'm sorry, if you
No,
believe
you got it.
that
I just wanted to
happened
make
and
sure
that
if
you
it's
believe
right
it's
here.
happened, but that's not really something that this board can consider. I hope it doesn't.
I hope so too.
I hope that all the people.
I mean, we were hoping for the same thing when
all the-
Wawa happened.
All the people from the east, yeah, but this is different because the people from the east can't make a left turn in. So if they're gonna want coffee, they're gonna wanna make the left turn
But the
in.
thing is, east is not our traffic only. We get traffic from both sides.
Right.
So we will be losing some traffic going west from D Road to that.
So I will confirm what Ms. Crimpo has just
Thank you,
said.
Yeah.
The board can't make decisions based upon whether your business is going
No, I got it. I just wanted to put it out because I wasn't sure.
I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I am sure.
Yeah, exactly.
That they cannot make
Yeah.
decisions based upon that infraction.
All right. That was it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Singh.
Thank you.
Sure. Any more statements from the public? See none?
Just very, very briefly, we worked very hard with the township's professionals and the board's professionals to really tweak this plan to their satisfaction before coming to you to make it hopefully go as smoothly as it did tonight, because we recognize that it's a busy corner and that we are proposing uses that, as Mr. Lineski said, we hope are very successful there and bring some vibrancy to that corner. So we were very careful in order to address all of the concerns. So I think in light of everything that was presented, as well as the testimony offered and the conditions that I know Mark is going to oppose, I'd ask that the board vote in favor of the relief as well as the site plan.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Does anyone have a motion?
Take a positive result.
I'll second that.
Mis-
I'll second it.
Mark?
Right, Mr. Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Mr. DeLomo?
Yes.
Mr. Chimora?
Yes.
Mr. Puccielli?
Yes.
Mr. Lineski?
Yes.
Mr. Caramanica?
Yes.
And Chairman Foley?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And we may be back expanding it to 2 menu boards, we'll see.
We know how to do that, right?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Good night, everyone.